Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 5th of July and I welcome you all to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, let's start with the video. In today's video, we are going to discuss the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper. We will take all the articles along with the background as well as way forward, and you can also download the explainer notes of this particular session from our Telegram channel. The link for the Telegram channel is given in the description box in YouTube. Now, first of all, let's see overview of entire newspaper so that we can understand that which articles are actually important in the today's newspaper. So, the first article that we have is SEO calls for multipolar world order as Iran joins grouping. So, basically guys, the virtual meet of SEO has been held and we'll see the important key takeaways that have come out of this particular meet. Then further moving on, in Supreme Court, Uddhav camp says speaker delaying disqualification process. So basically guys, this is in concern to the recent judgment of Supreme Court that came with respect to the Maharashtra, with respect to the MVA government. So you might be knowing that last year the government in Maharashtra got collapsed, okay, when some of the MLAs rebelled and joined with BJP. Okay, so in that particular matter, when during that particular time, the whip was issued. So whether the whip, whose whip will prevail, okay, on that particular thing, Supreme Court ruling came, and now the speaker has to take a decision. Okay, however guys, this particular issue has now become more of a politicized, so that political stake of political commentaries, etc., you are not required to go too much in detail. Then after that, moving on, in the city section, fine, we have largely the regional news, these tenders, etc., advertisements, etc., that have been there. So no need to go too much in detail in this particular direction, and directly will reach to the editorial section. In the editorial section, a macro view of fiscal health of the states will take this particular article with respect to the examination. Then an incomplete reform. Okay, so this particular article guys is talking about the GST. Okay, so we see this particular thing that when we talk about the GST, okay, GST has completed the 6 years. So basically GST collections over the years have increased, okay, the collections have increased and the reform looks robust and promising, but still it has not been simplified. Still there are issues which needed to be resolved in order to make a yet efficient and simple tax system. Antibiotics with promise a lifeline India waits. We'll take this particular article also with respect to the exam. Thwarting Twitter. So this article talks about the recent issue with respect to the Twitter. Okay, article 19, freedom of speech and expression. We'll take this article. Then further moving on into the next page, lesson from the fracas over food grain. So basically guys, recently you might have seen, and we have also discussed it multiple number of times, what happened. So the Karnataka government announced a scheme where the 10 kg food grains were to be provided to the people. Okay, National Food Security Act promises 5 kg food grain per person. The Karnataka government said that they'll provide 10 kg food grain under the Annabhagya scheme. For that they needed more food grains. Fine. Then government brought a change in the open market sales scheme. So open market sales scheme is a scheme under which the state governments can buy the food grains from the Food Corporation of India. Limitations were imposed. Okay, so the article is talking about the things that how much ton of food grain was required and all such kind of things. Much important substance is not there in this particular article for the exam. Then further moving on, fine, Karnataka OMSS beneficiary hit hard by the discontinuation. Okay, so guys, the same thing, that open market sales scheme. Fine, in that earlier the limits that were allowed, now the limits have been reduced drastically and Karnataka is not able to buy the food. And if you are following the analysis regularly, I think we have seen this particular issue at least 4 or 5 times in the previous days. Again, the same thing has been repeated. Okay, so now here more of a data has been given, that the number of beneficiaries under NFSA, number of beneficiaries under the state-run scheme, okay, all such kind of things. Then moving to the text and context section, the student debt crisis in the US. Okay, so basically guys, when we talk about US, so in US, students, they take a lot of loan to further study. If they are going for engineering, medicine or any other such kind of education, they take a lot of loan. Recently what has happened, US President Joe Biden proposed that the student loans, fine, should be he proposed the student loans should be waived off, okay, a kind of a loan waiver. Now that particular thing has ran in the opposition, okay. Now basically here the issues with respect to that student loan, who owes the most student loan, for example white, Hispanic, black, Asian, who has the maximum of the student loans, what is the amount of the student loan, and etc. Such kind of things are given. Again, moving again guys, telling you, you are not required to go too much in the detail in this particular article, because it largely concerns the internal issues of the America. Then further moving on, we have this article, the irrevocable connection between anemia and maternal health. We'll take this particular article for the examination. Then after that, largely here we have the political article, Manipur issue, political commentaries, etc. that has been given. We don't have much important article, so we directly move on. And here we have this particular article, government to help combat child trafficking in border area, set up rehabilitation home. We'll see this particular article. Center state tussle over OMSS may take spotlight at food ministers meet. So open market sales scheme, I told you that it has recently the limitations have been imposed on the scheme, that how much food you can procure. So on that particular direction the confrontations are coming, and food ministers meet, fine, might be taking up that particular matter. Then moving on into the world page. So world page, again we have the basically the issues related to the clash, law and order in the different countries, okay. Women salons in to shut in Afghanistan. So again guys, I have told you that on world page you need to focus on that which either concerns with India's foreign policy, or any article which might have an implication on India's international interest or domestic interest, but we don't have such article here today. Then further moving on, shelved 2017-18 HCES showed Maharashtra's inequality widening. We'll take this particular article with respect to the examination, what the article is actually talking about, okay. Then we have the sports page, okay, and in last we have this science page, okay. And in science page today we'll take the article on the leptospirosis. So what is this leptospirosis, how this infection is caused, and all such things we'll take. So this is overview of the newspaper, and now guys let's take all the relevant articles in one by one in detail, okay. So as I was telling you that you can download the synoptic notes, so here we have the synoptic notes, okay. Now in every class we start with the GS quotation, and in this quotation we take some of the quote from great people which we can use in our GS papers or in essay paper. So today we'll take the quotation from C.S. Lewis, who says integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching, okay. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. So integrity is to have the highest moral standards. Integrity is to have an alignment between what you think, what you speak, and what you do. Integrity happens to be one of the most important moral value or the value of one's character. And integrity means doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Sometimes people do right thing just to get some appreciation, just to get some recognition. But even when nobody is there to watch you, even when nobody has imposed that you have to do this thing or that thing, still if you are doing, then you are the person of integrity. We can use this particular idea with respect to GS paper number 4, ethics, integrity and aptitude, because there is a separate chapter on the human values. So there we can use this particular idea of C.S. Lewis. So that is all about it. And now let's take the first article for today. So the first article that we are going to take is with respect to the SEO Virtual Summit that has been held yesterday, that is on 4th of July. So this particular article guys will see with respect to GS paper number 2, India and international groupings, Now first of all guys, when we talk about the SEO, SEO stands for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a Eurasian, it is a Eurasian grouping covering largely the area of Eurasia. And SEO focuses on, number one, it focuses on economic growth and development of the partner countries. Secondly, it focuses on reduction in terrorism. Okay. Thirdly, it focuses on identifying the common concerns of all the countries in this particular region. Okay. For terrorism, there is a particular separate structure within the SEO also that is there, that is RATS. Okay, Regional Anti-Terrorism Squad. Okay, now every year the SEO summit are held and one country is made as a chairman for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting for that particular year. This year, that is 2023, India is leading, India is the chair for SEO. Earlier, SEO meet was to be held in physical format, but few weeks or months back, India decided that physical meet of SEO would not happen. We will held this particular meet in the virtual format. Why? Mainly there are the two reasons. First of all, within the SEO, Pakistan is also member. And if physical meet would have happened, it would have happened in India and we would have to invite the Pakistan. But right now, the relations with Pakistan are not going good. At the same time, China is also a member. Okay, so the relations are not going good with the China also. And at the same time, Russia is also the member, and as Russia-Ukraine war is going on, the Western countries have imposed a lot of sanctions on the Russia. India till now has not criticized that only Russia is responsible for this war. India says war is bad, but we have not specifically put all the responsibility on Russia. Western world is expecting that India also put some sanction on Russia, but we have not done. And inviting the Russian president in this particular atmosphere again would have opened up some political controversies, okay, and all such kind of a thing. So India avoided the physical meet and the virtual meet was carried. Okay. Now the important key takeaways from this virtual meet, what are there, is that first of all guys, the Iran has finally been admitted to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So from couple of years, Iran was trying to get an entry. Last year it was finalized that the Iran will be made a member, and now Iran has officially become the member of SEO. So today there are 9 members in the SEO. What are these 9 members? So we have number 1 China, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. Now guys, remember this particular thing. In Central Asia, we have 5 countries. In Central Asia, we have 5 countries. Fine, out of 5, 4 countries have joined the SEO. Only 1 country has not joined. What is that country? That is the Turkmenistan. So apart from Turkmenistan, all the 4 countries, here you can see Tajikistan is there, Uzbekistan is there, Kazakhstan is there and Kyrgyzstan is there. So 4 are the Central Asian countries except Turkmenistan. Okay. So 4 are the Central Asian countries, then the 5th is India, 6th is China, 7th is Russia, 8th is Pakistan and the 9th is Iran. So these are the 9 countries, keep it in your mind. Then guys, the next thing that the countries have decided upon is that the countries have issued a joint statement where they are talking about a representative and multipolar world order. So basically the countries have talked about that unipolarity. For example, it was there after the collapse of the USSR where the America became the only superpower. So that unipolarity is not desirable. During the Cold War, bipolarity was there. On one hand USSR, on another hand USA. That bipolarity is also not desirable. We need multipolarity. We need multiple poles of power. Okay, and the middle countries will also play an important role here. Fine. So this is something that they all have talked about. Then guys, the next development that comes in this particular direction is that, see, we talked about the multipolarity, we talked about the representative world, we talked about that the values of peace, prosperity should be commonly shared by all the countries. But if one issue came in the SEO where India developed difference of opinion. Now guys, 2023 is being celebrated by the China as the 10-year anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative. So as per the Belt and Road Initiative, China wants to connect itself with the countries of Europe, with the countries of Asia, and for that particular connectivity, China is building big ticket projects. It is financing the railway projects, highway projects, port projects. Okay, now guys, when we talk about the Belt and Road Initiative, one part or one component of the Belt and Road Initiative is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it is the component of the Belt and Road Initiative. Now, under China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, railway project, highway project, high-speed internet connectivity, highways, etc. will be deployed. Now, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, guys, actually the problem is that it passes from the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Now, the status of Pakistan occupied Kashmir is that it is actually the territory of India. It is actually the territory of India, but illegally it has been captured by the Pakistan. So, when it has been illegally captured by the Pakistan, how Pakistan can give this particular place to China that you construct the project here, number one, and how China has even the right that they can take the project from this particular place. So, if we accept the Belt and Road Initiative, it means we will also accept the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and in a way we will recognize that this particular region of Kashmir, that is our own Kashmir, this part of Pakistan occupied Kashmir belongs to Pakistan. Fine. So, indirectly that particular thing will go. So, we have not joined the Belt and Road Initiative and we criticize the Belt and Road Initiative at every front. So, this year is the 10-year anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative, and a joint statement on Belt and Road Initiative was also brought forward in this SEO Summit. So, India refused. So, what happened? Just a minute. So, what happened? India refused to join the members when they discussed on the China's Belt and Road Initiative. This discussion India did not join, and India also said that we are not going to join the Economic Development Strategy 2030. Economic Development Strategy 2030. Now see, this Economic Development Strategy 2030 is proposed by the China, where the China says that by developing the massive infrastructure projects under the Belt and Road Initiative, better connectivity will come for all these countries and the prosperity will come. So, through infrastructure development, they are talking about the prosperity, and that infrastructure development will come by the BRI. So, this is the Economic Development Strategy 2030. India did not join this particular strategy also. Prime Minister very beautifully put forward this particular thing, that we understand better connectivity is important. Better connectivity enhances the mutual trade, it enhances the mutual trust, it is good for employment, it is good for economic development. But at the same time, within the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization Charter, so for example, we have the Constitution of India. In the same way, for the SCO, there is the SCO Charter. In the SCO Charter, very clearly it has been written that every country's sovereignty will be respected. Regional integrity will be respected. But you are taking the project from the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is actually the part of India. Fine, you are not respecting the sovereignty of India while you are taking this China-Pakistan economic corridor. So, point is that we will not join the economic development. Will stay out of the economic development strategy, will not be joining the Belt and Road Initiative. So, this was a difference of opinion that also came between the India and the China. Then guys, there was also one more confrontation kind of a thing that happened, is that Prime Minister very sharply called out Pakistan for the cross-border terrorism that the Pakistan carries. So, we have seen that so much of the infiltration Pakistan has carried within India. So, for that particular thing, Prime Minister has called out the Pakistan also. Okay, then the next development that comes in this particular direction is that all the countries, they have signed the New Delhi Declaration. Now, what is New Delhi Declaration? New Delhi Declaration is a comprehensive agreement to increase the areas of cooperation between all these 9 countries. So under this New Delhi declaration, the cooperation areas between the SEO members have been finalized. For example, all the countries will together be dealing with the global challenges that have come right now. Now, what are the global challenges? First of all, guys, we are now facing that there are the emerging conflicts. The biggest conflict is going on between the Russia and Ukraine. Then, guys, the ideological divide is going on between the world countries. NATO's expansion, for example, is going on. So there are a lot of potential conflicts that are emerging. We'll try to solve these particular conflicts in a peaceful manner. There is the turbulence in the markets that have come. Okay, you see this thing, global economy is not doing very much good. Inflation is very much high. Demand is suppressed. Okay, supply chain instability is there. Okay, you see this particular thing, guys, that after the COVID-19 pandemic, supply chains got disturbed. The semiconductor supply got disturbed. Okay, then the climate change is a very big issue which is plaguing all the countries. COVID-19 pandemic, still till now, even we are trying to recoup that how the COVID-19 can be sustainably be managed. So all these particular challenges are plaguing all the countries in a similar capacity. So we will come together and will solve them. This is what is carried into the New Delhi Declaration. Then, guys, under the New Delhi Declaration, the countries have also signed the statement to counter radicalization. Now understand this thing. Radicalization is the core. Radicalization is the root of fundamentalism and terrorism. And today terrorism is the biggest problem that is infecting the humanity. So we need to tackle the radicalization by which the terrorism and the fundamentalism could be controlled. Okay, so we'll come together. Then the next is digital transformation. Now see, when we talk about India, India has even few months back, Bill Gates appreciated India for its UPI architecture. So ease of money transfer that has come in India, it has not been anywhere in the world. So digital transformation, UPI like architectures, then CoWIN like architectures for vaccine distribution. Okay, then we have this DigiLocker. Okay, so all these particular innovations that India have come out with, for example, Aadhaar, CoWIN, DigiLocker, okay, then UPI, it is all combinedly called as Digital India Stack. It is combinedly called as the Digital India Stack. So India will be transferring such a technology to these countries also. So India will help in the digital transformation. Okay, so these are all the issues that have come here. Then, guys, further, there is this particular issue with respect to the sanctions also that is going on. Now understand this particular thing, that USA, most of the times the countries criticize, particularly the ones who are aligned to the Russia and China, that the USA has unilaterally imposed the sanctions on Russia. If any sanction on Russia has to come because of this Russia-Ukraine war, that particular sanction should be approved by the United Nations as a whole. But countries are unilaterally imposing the sanction. Indirectly, they are saying USA is imposing the sanction. So it has been said that these sanctions are incompatible with the principles of the international law and they will not be supported. Okay, so this is a common theme that has come. Obviously, it will come. Why? Because Russia and China are the two most dominant countries in this particular grouping. And then, guys, seventhly, the seventh important development that has come in this particular direction is that the countries have finalized that they will use national currencies for the payment within the grouping. So these 9 countries, whenever they are doing some trade, they will prefer the domestic currencies. Already, for example, when we talk about the Russia and India, rupee ruble arrangement is going on, where when we buy the oil from Russia, we tend to pay in terms of rupee. So that also has become now a big problem because Russia now has a surplus rupee currency. Okay, but as far as possible, the countries within the grouping will try to trade in the domestic currencies. So this is an attempt for de-dollarization. This is an attempt towards the de-dollarization. Now, what is de-dollarization? So de-dollarization is an attempt by the countries to reduce the hegemony of dollar. Okay, dollar today is the most preferred currency in international trade. So this will lead to de-dollarization. So these are, guys, all the important issues that have come in this particular direction. And one thing I will tell you very clearly, guys, that beyond this, I will not expect you to go beyond. Fine, this is more than sufficient for your exam. Then the next article, irrevocable connection between anemia and maternal health. This particular article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, issues of health. GS paper number 2, issues of health. Okay, now what the article is actually talking about? So article is talking about the link between anemia and maternal health. Okay, now guys, understand this particular thing. First of all, what do we mean by anemia? So basically, anemia is a health condition in which the hemoglobin carrying capacity of the blood is reduced. Okay, sorry, in which the oxygen carrying capacity of the hemoglobin is reduced. Okay, anemia, it is caused because of the iron deficiency, and often the diets of the people are not diversified. The diets don't contain leafy vegetable, diet don't contains the consumption of the fresh vegetables. Okay, and often the supplements for the iron are also not taken by the people. Because of that particular thing, anemia as a health condition develops. Now anemia far more plagues the women, and particularly the teenage women. They have more they have more probability that they will be having the iron deficiency, and anemia as a health condition will develop in that. Now anemia directly impacts the maternal health. Now guys, understand this particular thing. In the context of India, the maternal mortality is a very big problem. Large number of women, they die, they face a mortality while they are delivering a child. And a very common cause of mortality after the delivery is the postpartum hemorrhage. Now what is the postpartum hemorrhage? We will understand this particular thing, and how it is linked with the anemia, we will understand that particular thing also. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that there is this condition of the postpartum hemorrhage. It is the excessive vaginal bleeding after the delivery. Now first of all, understand this thing, that after the delivery, vaginal bleeding is a common thing which happens, but sometimes the vaginal bleeding after the delivery increases so much. And when we talk about the women who have anemia, already there are the when we talk about the women who have anemia, already the oxygen carrying capacity of their blood is low, and even when that particular blood is lost, they pass away, they die because of this particular complication. Now as per the study by women stands for World Maternal Anti Fibrinolytic Worldwide. According to this particular organization, they say that 500 million women in the world who are in the reproductive age, they are anemic. Okay, so 500 million women, this is huge, they are anemic. And every year approximately 70,000 women, they die because of the postpartum hemorrhage. Okay, so these are the women who have anemia. So 70,000 women, they die of the postpartum hemorrhage because largely they have anemia, and this anemia prevails more in the low and middle income countries. Why? Because in the low and middle income countries, the poverty is huge, and because the poverty is huge, often women particularly, they are not given the nutritious diets. Even the governments don't focus too much on giving the iron supplements to the women. So therefore this anemia problem prevails more in the low and middle income countries. Okay, now basically it has been provided that oxygen carrying capacity of blood is reduced in anemia. Therefore the women who have anemia, they cannot tolerate the same volume of bleeding as a healthy woman can tolerate. Now see this thing, this postpartum hemorrhage, that is the vaginal bleeding that happens after the delivery, I told you it is quite common in most of the women. A healthy woman might not face a fatality, because she is not anemic. But an anemic woman will face the fatality with the same bleeding, because already the oxygen carrying capacity of blood was low. Okay, and it will lead to the shock, it might lead to the multi-organ failure. So it is most important thing right now that the countries should give attention to the treatment of anemia. Okay, should give attention to the treatment of anemia. Now when we talk about India, guys, in the context of India, the government has designed a well structured project, and weekly iron folic acid supplements, these are the tablets that are given to the adolescent girls as well as boys, so that the iron deficiency can be reduced. But guys, still much improvement has not come in this particular direction. And as per National Family Health Survey 5, more than half of the women in India, they are suffering with the anemia. Okay, so basically right now there is a need that we need to carry a wide public outreach program. We need to educate the public. Often there are the cultural and social issues that come in between. For example, guys, under the patriarchal setup, we find that women diet, food for the women is not a big or the first priority for the families. They don't focus too much on the on the health of the women. Okay, see, when we talk about a pregnant woman, there is the antenatal care and postnatal care that is there. Antenatal care is the treatment, or it is the care that is given to the women before the delivery of a child. So during the antenatal care, we need to focus that if a woman is anemic, she should be given the iron supplement so that her anemia can be cured or could be minimized. Moreover, the teen pregnancies should not happen. Before conceiving a child, women should gain a healthy weight that is needed. They should not be having any deficiencies. Regular medical checkups needed to be carried. Okay, people need to change their attitudes towards the women. Better targeting by the government needs to be there. So all are these things which needs to be focused, and by this particular issue only, we will collectively be able to solve the problem of anemia and postpartum hemorrhage, which is the leading cause. So in your GS paper number 1 and GS paper number 2, the health and the women related issues are there. So when we talk about the women's health, this becomes a very big issue. So I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll move to the next article. Understanding leptospirosis, a disease that surges during the monsoon. Now this article we have taken from the science page, and the article actually will be important for health. Okay, the article is actually be important for the health, which is given in our GS paper number 2. Even in the prelims examination, the section on disease, thus an objective question can also be asked. So let's understand that what this article is actually containing. Leptospirosis. So basically, guys, recently there has been a lot of increase in the leptospirosis cases. Now what is leptospirosis? So leptospirosis, it is a disease which is caused by the leptospira bacteria. Now see, this is a zoonotic disease. What is the meaning of a zoonotic disease? Zoonotic disease is one which is transmitted from animals to the human. So animals are the reservoir of this particular bacteria, and from animal that bacteria is passed to the human. Those diseases are called as a zoonotic disease. Okay, now this leptospira bacteria. Now understand this particular thing, guys. When we talk about the wild as well as domestic animals, for example, rodents, cattle, pigs, dogs, they are the carriers of this leptospira bacteria, and this particular bacteria is passed on the humans. How it is passed on to the humans? So it is by the shedding of this leptospira bacteria through the urine of the infected animals, Now guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the India has a huge cattle population. Often the cattle, they get infected with this leptospira bacteria, and when they urinate, that urine comes in contact with the human, and particularly the human who have cuts on their skin, who have abrasions, cuts, scratches, wounds on their skin. From that cut or scratch in the skin, this leptospira bacteria enters in the human body, and the human becomes sick because of this leptospira bacteria, and the leptospirosis disease, it is manifested. Now, when we talk about this particular disease, fine, the human become infected because direct or indirect contact that they come in. Now, this particular bacteria thrives more. This bacteria thrives more into the warm, humid countries as well as into the warm and humid climates, both in urban as well as rural area. Now, understand this thing that when the monsoon arrives, so monsoon brings rain. After the rain, again the sun shines, heat leads to the moisture. So it is a ripe condition for thriving of this leptospira bacteria. Fine, it is very optimum for this particular leptospira bacteria. Now, what are the symptoms of this particular infection? So once the people are infected with this particular virus, it will lead to fever, chills, okay, headache. Sometimes there will be no symptom at all, but in some of the cases this disease can lead to multi-organ failure. It will lead to failure of organ, kidney, lungs, brain, and then it will lead to death, it will lead to fatality. So some cases the symptoms are minor, symptoms are mild, but some cases the symptoms are extreme and might lead to the fatality. Now, the animals also who are infected with this leptospira bacteria, they there are the reproductive failures. For example, the cattle who are infected, reproductive failures, stillbirth. Stillbirth means the birth that they are giving, uh, uh, the offspring is dead upon birth. Stillbirth, okay. Weak calves, piglets, okay. Diarrhea, fever, jaundice within the animals also. These are the symptoms of this particular leptospirosis. Okay. So what is the treatment? What is the treatment? So guys, treatment is just prevention. And how the prevention can be done? Prevention can be carried by ensuring that there are the sanitary animal keeping conditions. For example, the animals needed to be vaccinated. There needs to be the sanitary conditions so that the urine of the animal doesn't collect at a place. The humans should not come in contact. So clean sanitary conditions in which the animals are kept, it will drastically reduce the cases of the leptospirosis. So this is all about it. Fine. I hope guys that you have understood it. Okay. I hope that you have understood it. Okay. So this is all about it. Now moving to the next article. Thwarting Twitter. Thwarting Twitter. Now, first of all, I will give you some of the background information. And then we'll go in detail. Now, this particular article will read with respect to GS paper number 2, issues related to fundamental rights, right of freedom of speech and expression, article 19. Freedom of speech and expression, article 19. Now, what this article is actually talking about, let's understand this thing. So, basically guys, in the past, government had ordered the Twitter that you block certain accounts, certain handles which have tweeted something against the government of India, or which have tweeted some support in the favor of the farm protests that were going in 2020, etc. So there were some of the requests that were made by the government to Twitter to block accounts, to block the tweets, to block some of the handles. Twitter approached the Karnataka High Court and said that government is asking us to block the accounts. It will go against the Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, that is the fundamental right of speech and expression. So they applied to the Karnataka High Court. Now recently Karnataka High Court has rejected the petition of Twitter. Karnataka High Court has given this particular argument that the foreign entity such as Twitter, now you know Twitter is a micro-blogging site from America. So it is a foreign entity. They said that these foreign entities cannot invoke the constitutional guarantee of free speech and expression. They cannot ask the protection under article number 19. So the Karnataka High Court has disposed this particular request. Now the article is saying this particular thing, that this is not a good thing that has happened. So article is saying this thing, that we well understand, we recognize that often the social media websites, social media content, it can degenerate. The social media websites can become the factories of fake news. They become the factories of disinformation, misinformation. They can spread the hate speech, hostile propaganda against the state. Fine, but at the same time, you cannot crush the free speech. That is also important. Almost all the democratic countries have the laws in place where they restrict the social media so that they don't spread any fake news. But they have the systems, they have the mechanisms, they have the laws which are rooted in fairness and natural justice. Article is saying this particular thing, that in the context of India, whenever government wants, government issues an order to a social media website and ask them that you take down this particular content. What is the logic? What is the process? What is the system behind that? We need to have such system, which is there in almost all the democracies. Now, we have section 69A of the IT Act. Now, understand this thing. Section 66A was struck down by the Supreme Court in the Shreya Singhal judgment of 2015. But section 69A is also there, which was not struck down. Now, section 69A gives the power to the government to issue blocking orders, that the government can ask Twitter, you block this handle, you block this account. So, government can issue the blocking order. Supreme Court said that you can issue the blocking orders, but at the same time, there needs to be the procedural safeguards. There needs to be the procedural safeguards. You need to ensure that this particular provision is not being misused for the political purpose. And on the basis of procedural safeguard, it can be done. So, section 69A was upheld. Now, basically, guys, Twitter is saying this particular thing. That when government issued the notice to block a particular handle or a particular account, they did not give us the time to send notice to the originators of the content. For example, I am doing a tweet on Twitter, so I am the originator of the content. Twitter says that let us send a message to the originator of the political vendetta. So it is not needed that you need to send a message to them. You need to identify them. You need to track them. Government is giving you the order to block. You have to block this particular thing. So basically, guys, understand this thing, okay, that indirectly the Karnataka High Court has given an open ground to the government to issue any order, and has even asked the social media websites that they have to follow the order. So now it is very much important that we need a concrete judgment from the Supreme Court, which will clarify both the scope of the fundamental rights as well as the obligation of these social media companies. What will be the limit of the fundamental rights? Okay. That particular thing is to be defined. Or what are the procedural safeguards? What are the procedural safeguards which have to be used before taking down the content? What standard operating procedure is there before taking down the content? Okay, what safeguards are there? Fine, these particular things are to be defined immediately by the Supreme Court. Okay, so this is, guys, all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood this particular issue, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Okay, antibiotics with promise, a lifeline India awaits. Okay, now this particular article again we'll see with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues related to the health. Now, first of all, guys, let me tell you basic background of this particular article that you should know. See, antibiotics are the medications. Antibiotics are the medications that are used to treat any disease, any infection, or any condition which is caused by a living organism, or which is caused by a biological organism. We'll not use the word living organism, we'll use the word biological organism. For example, virus. Now, whether virus is living or virus is dead. So, virus is dead outside the host but living within the host. So, we'll use the word biological organism. So, there are many diseases, many infections that are caused by biological organisms, such as the bacteria, such as fungi, such as viruses, etc. To treat the infection caused by them, we need the antibiotics. Now, understand this particular thing, guys. that often the bacterias, viruses, they become resistant to an antibiotic drug. That antibiotic drug will not work on them. Okay, and therefore what will happen, often even the common infections will not be treated. Now I want to tell you one particular thing, that even during the COVID-19 pandemic, large number of death did not happen because of the COVID, rather they happened because of the infections that people developed after COVID, and those infections killed the people. So understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the antibiotics, we have, for example, the first line of antibiotics which are available over the counter, which you can buy and you can treat any condition. Then when these first line of antibiotics will not be effective, when they will fail, or when the bacteria or virus have developed a resistance against them, then the second line of antibiotics will come, then the third line of antibiotics will come. So we have these antibiotics. Okay, now guys, understand this particular thing, that today the antibiotic drug resistance have become quite a common and a big health problem. So the article is talking about this particular thing, that immediately India should give emergency use authorization for some essential antibiotics which are right now in the phase 3 of clinical trials, or the ones which are in the other country. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that recently there is this particular case, a patient, he bravely fought with T-cell leukemia as well as with the extensively drug resistant strain. Okay, now understand this thing, particularly for example, I give you the example of TB. Now there is the multi-drug resistant TB. So multi-drug resistant TB is that type of TB in which most of the antibiotics have failed. So we need higher third line of antibiotics. So for those, now these antibiotics are not available for most of the diseases. So the article is saying that emergency use authorization to the antibiotics is to be given which are into the third phase of the trials, because right now not having the antibiotics is leading to so many of the deaths. It has been said that every year millions of lives are lost due to inadequacy of the available antibiotics. Okay, now we see this particular thing, guys, that first of all, what do we mean by this emergency use approval? So now see, final trials of any medicine, any vaccine will take so many of the years. But before the final trial is actually completed, we can given the emergency use approval that you can use this particular drug right now, and the trials will also go side by side. So we have given the emergency use approval to the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, none of the COVID-19 vaccine, their complete trial has happened. Trials are still going on, but we allowed the COVID-19 vaccine under the emergency use approval. So as India has done, in the case of the antibiotics also, we need to recognize that how antibiotics, deficiency of antibiotics is leading to so many of the fatalities, so many of the deaths, and we need to give the approval for them. Is it clear? So this is all, guys, about this particular article. And now moving to the next article, a macro view of the fiscal health of states. Now, this particular article will see with respect to GS paper number 3, issues related to Indian economy. Issues related to Indian economy. Now, what the article is actually talking about. So basically, guys, the article is talking about the fiscal situation of the states. Now understand this particular thing, that when COVID-19 came, just after the COVID-19 lockdown was announced, and with the lockdown, economic crisis for India began. Revenue streams of the government, GST for the government, all these things are declined, but at the same time expenditure for health, expenditure for sanitation, all these things are increasing. People are to be provided food grains, people are to be provided fiscal support. So expenditures were increasing, revenues were going down, and during the pandemic fiscal deficit increased a lot. But now we see this particular thing, that fiscal deficit is going down. So there is the post pandemic fiscal correction at the level of union and the state that has happened. Fiscal correction means that fiscal deficit is now going down, revenue is increasing, expenditure is going down, so fiscal deficit is in a comfortable range. Okay, so the data with respect to the fiscal balance, fiscal deficit, etc., it is released every year by the Reserve Bank of India, annual study on state finances. Okay, the union government's fiscal deficit data we have, but the states data on the fiscal deficit, all the states data we get under the RBI annual study of state finances report. Okay, now The article is saying this particular thing, that as per the analysis done over the 17 major states, we see this particular thing, that the states, they have managed to contain their fiscal deficit. They have managed to contain their fiscal deficit. But there are some other concerns that need to be tackled. Okay, we'll talk about that. Now, first of all, we see this particular thing, that into the context of the states have managed to be fiscally prudent despite the contraction in revenue. Now, what is to be prudent? Prudent is to be wise. Prudent is to behave intelligently. So, when the revenues got declined, the states behaved in an intelligent way, and they ensured that how they can spend with carefulness. So, revenue went down, but still they were prudent, and therefore fiscal deficits were managed. The next thing that comes here is that that emergency provision for health spending, okay, and livelihood during the COVID-19 pandemic was not easy. Okay, so health spending was not easy. Coordination between the union and state with respect to the fiscal finances was not easy. Okay, but still they managed anyhow on that particular thing. Third, states were able to reprioritize expenditure and quickly contain the fiscal deficit. Now, you need to reprioritize expenditure. Sometimes, for example, if you are earning 1 lakh rupees, you are doing expenditure on a lot of things. But if you are earning reduced from 1 lakh to 50,000 rupees. Now, obviously, you cannot do expenditure on all the things that you are doing. So, we have to reprioritize. We need to assess where we should spend, where we should not spend. The states did that thing during the COVID, and therefore they were able to reduce their fiscal deficit. At the same time, they say this thing, that fiscal deficit is also going down because GST collection has improved. Okay, now see this thing. What is deficit? Suppose I am earning 100 rupees and I am spending 110 rupees. So 10 rupees is the deficit. How to reduce this 10 rupee deficit? A, I reduce my expenditure, or B, I increase my income. Earlier I was earning 100 and spending 110. Suppose my income increased to 110. Now my deficit will become 0. So GST collections have improved. Okay, and because of that particular thing also, the deficits are going down. But at the same time, guys, many of the states have still not achieved the fiscal balance. Particularly, revenue deficit is not under control. Revenue deficit, see, understand this thing. When we talk about the expenditure, there is a capital expenditure and then there is a revenue expenditure. Capital expenditure is that which government does on building some asset. Revenue expenditure is done on maintaining law and order or day-to-day activities. So, if revenue expenditure is more than the income that you are getting from the revenue side, then it will lead to the revenue deficit. So, the revenue deficit is still not under control, and 3 states, Kerala, Punjab, West Bengal, these 3 states are fiscally stressed. Majority of the states, they have improved their fiscal status, but these states are fiscally stressed. Okay, so what can be way forward? Way forward in this particular direction is that interest-free loans should be given by the union government to these particular states, 3 states, or the states which have bad fiscal conditions, so that by that particular interest-free loan, they can finance their developmental needs, so that they don't need to borrow from the market. Okay, this will improve their fiscal condition. So, that is all, guys, about this particular article. These are the key takeaways here. I hope you have understood it. Now, moving to the next article. Government to help combat child trafficking in border areas, set up rehabilitation homes. Now, this particular article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, social justice. Issues related to the children. Now, what the article is talking about. So basically, guys, when we talk about the human trafficking happens to be a big concern for almost all the countries. But in the context of India, guys, India is the source of human trafficking as well as the destination for human trafficking. See, many young women and girls, they are being lured from the countries such as Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar. Okay, these girls, they are lured by they are attracted. The traffickers, they convince the parents that you send your girls, we will arrange for them some job, or we will arrange them for them some opportunity in Delhi, Hyderabad, Mumbai. These girls are brought and then they are pushed into the sex trade, they are pushed into the trafficking many number of times from these countries, these girls are brought to India, and then they are trafficked to the West Asian countries, to the Middle East also. So many of the children, girls, young girls, they are being trafficked from these countries, they are being brought in India, and then they are being pushed into the commercial sex work. So basically, the state governments need to be more vigilant, particularly the state government which are bordering Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar. They need to be more careful so that the girls are not being trafficked through these states. So guys, in this particular capacity, center now has decided that the center will build infrastructure in the border areas, in the border states, so that they can combat the child trafficking, and in case if a child has been trafficked, those child should be rehabilitated, they should be given protection. Fine. So for that particular thing, the border states which border with these countries, there the basic infrastructure will be built to stop this particular child trafficking. And Women and Child Development Ministry of Women and Child Development will provide the financial assistance to all the states and union territories which lie on the juncture of the international border, so that they can create this particular infrastructure. Okay, now what facilities will be provided? So there will be the rehabilitation homes. These rehabilitation homes will provide shelter to the trafficked women and children, food facility, clothing facility. They will be given psychological counseling, primary health facilities will be given to them. The arrangement of them to send back to their country will also be made. For example, women trafficked from Nepal brought to Bihar. Okay, now the arrangement as how they can be sent back again to their country, they can be united with their parents. All these arrangements will be done by these particular facilities which will be developed in the bordering states, and the funding will be provided by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Now, already there is also some kind of an existing arrangement that is there. For example, what is the arrangement right now? Right now, Women and Child Development Ministry, it provides the funding to establish anti-human trafficking unit. Fine, they are set up in every district of the country. But apart from this anti-human trafficking unit, we need to establish the infrastructure facilities to accommodate them, to provide the medical facilities, to provide the medical care and all such kind of things. And for that, Ministry of Women and Child Development will now provide the funding, and funding will be provided under the Mission Vatsalya. Funding will be provided under the Mission Vatsalya. Now, one more thing you need to understand, that these anti-human trafficking unit, they are being given funding under the Nirbhaya Fund. They are being given the funding under the Nirbhaya Fund. So Nirbhaya Fund was a dedicated fund that was established after the Nirbhaya rape case, okay, to protect the women. Fine, for the safety of the women. Now there is also one more scheme within the Ministry of Women and Child Development, that is Mission Vatsalya. Now Mission Vatsalya is the scheme that is focused on the protection and the welfare of the children. So under Mission Vatsalya, the funding will be given, fine, for the infrastructure which will provide all these particular services. Okay, so guys, these are some of the examples that you have to use in your answer sheets, okay, while you are writing the answers. These are something which will justify your answers. They will give a credibility and authenticity to your answer. So please put these examples in your answers. So that is all about it. And now we'll move to the next article. Now this article is from Business Page, shelved 2017-18. HCS showed Maharashtra's inequality widening. Now, guys, let me explain you some of the basic thing with respect to this particular article. Now, guys, when we talk about India, how we estimate the poverty? For example, has poverty increased in last 10 years, or has poverty decreased in the last 10 years? So for calculating the poverty, a specific survey is carried by the government of India, that is NSO. Okay, National Statistical Office, it carries a special survey. NSO, National Statistic Office, comes under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. It carries a survey, and the survey is the Consumption Expenditure Survey. This survey calculates the poverty. Now, the last Consumption Expenditure Survey that happened was in 2017 and 18. But the data with respect to the Consumption Expenditure Survey 2017 and 18 has not been released. Before that, the Consumption Expenditure Survey was held in 2011 and 12. And as per the Consumption Expenditure Survey of 2011 and 12, poverty has been reduced. Okay, good. But what after 2011 and 12? What is the direction of poverty? We don't have any information. Why? Because consumption expenditure survey of 2017-18 did not got released till now. The government now has said that we will not release the data. New survey will be conducted somewhere in 23 or 24. Now, what this article is saying? This article is saying that the Maharashtra level, Maharashtra state's data has been released. And as per the Maharashtra's data, the inequality has increased. Inequality has widened up. Okay, they say that in the urban households, their 40% of expenditure is going just on food. 40% of the expenditure is just going on food in the urban households. So poverty has increased, inequality has also increased. The Maharashtra's data has been released. Now understand this thing. You are not specifically required to go and track the data only for the Maharashtra. Why? Because in our examination, we need to focus more on the country level estimate. So are you required to go too much in detail that how much income increased, how much expenditure increased? Specifically the Maharashtra's estimates are being given. No need to go too much in detail there. Let's see, the consumption expenditure survey for entire India might be carried in 2023. So then that entire India survey you need to see. I hope you have understood that. And now taking the main practice question for today. So question says that India, being the big pharmaceutical leader of the world, has also fueled the problem as it is facing a pandemic of antibiotic resistant superbugs. Discuss the efforts taken by government to address this problem. So this will be the GS paper number 2 answers for health. GS2 paper number question for health 10 marker. So that is all about it. And guys, with this we come to an end to the today's newspaper analysis. That is all for today. I hope that you have liked the video. Thank you so much.